Hello, I'm Odin, and today I'm going to make another requested prop. It's one of Scorpion's masks from Mortal Kombat 11. I have already made a Mortal Kombat mask before, so to speed up this build, I'll start with my Sub-Zero pattern. The base will be 4mm What the Foam, and by cutting a pair of grooves in the back, I can get a good crease on the front folds. Sure is nice having a base, something to work from. Doing a second iteration, even though it's going to be very different cosmetically, it is effectively the same type of mask, and I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy this build. Before I get too involved, I want to say thank you to this week's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. You know I love the art direction of Raid Shadow Legends. All the unique champions, motion capture for the animations, and epic bosses. And all of the props. There are hundreds of artifacts to equip the over 500 champions, each with unique skills. Build your team and level up your champions however you like, but don't just take my word for it. Use my links below to download Raid for yourself, to your mobile phone or PC while I tell you some more. And at first, it's easy to pick your champions and build a custom team to raid with. But before too long, you have to get really selective on who's going to go be a member of your party and who's going to stay. Look, buddy, not today. So what's new in Raid? Well, Raid recently released its biggest ever update, the Doom Tower. It's a giant tower with 120 floors, a bunch of secret challenge rooms, and 12 seriously badass bosses. And on top of that, Raid also just released a bunch of amazing new champions, and there'll be even more coming this month. And with over 500 champions in-game now, trust me when I say there's a champion for everyone. And this month is absolutely packed in terms of special events. There's a load of awesome tournaments, along with some special Valentine's Day events. There's never been a better time to dive in and get started. You can support my channel by downloading Raid. All you gotta do is hit the link in the description and you'll get your free Spirit Champion, 50,000 silver, 50 gems, 5 mystery shards, a 1-day XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 clan boss key just as soon as you get in game. And look at this cool champion that you'll get for free. And you'll find your extra rewards right here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. Help me reach the goal by downloading this game. Your support for this channel is always appreciated very much. I can still use one more piece of the pattern and cut out parts from 10mm foam. And I'll glue these braces behind the mask. Now these will hold the angles and keep the mask away from my face. One criticism I have over my Sub-Zero mask is how far away from the face it sets. I think it looks great and it fits great, and it's supposed to fit over another mask, but it seems to fit a little farther away from my face than I want. So I can try and make this one a little bit closer. We'll see. I cut some 6mm wide strips of 4mm foam for the trim that runs along the bottom edge. I glue them in starting at the chin and then working back towards the ear. The back of the strip is equal with the back of the mask, so the front sticks out a little bit. And it gives me a very slight ridge along the bottom here. Yeah, about 2mm. Actually, looks like it's a little less than that. I think my piece isn't exactly 6. Next, I want to make the main piece of the mouth. What I'll use is some 10mm foam. And then I'll just cut it into a wedge shape. It's the size of the chin to the bottom, and then it tapers almost to a point up near the nose. To help it wrap around the chin, I cut an angle on the bigger end. And I actually did this a couple of times, and I get a good looking rounded wrap that goes around and under the chin. And it slopes down near the nose. I glued all the cut edges onto the black foam, so only the smooth side is showing on the outside. I made a paper template for the shape that goes around the mouth. Each side will match much more closely this way. And I start with making a little wall of 6mm foam, curving it all the way around the mouth and seeing if I can get the shape that I want without cutting a big flat piece. The only modification so far is to cut an angle onto the ends so the mouth slopes down to the chin. I use the same paper guide that I made for the shape of the mouth and start to get the cheekbone shape figured out. When I have a line that I like, I cut the paper template and copy the new line onto the mask. Now that's like way up there, isn't it? All right, well, there's a problem. That looks great, but man, that sticks way out in the front. Oh wow, am I glad I did that. Oh wow, that's wrong. Is it? Yeah, that's pretty wrong. Okay, so if I make this come back more, that'll help if I cut down on the spacing here. First, I cut more away from the nose brace. The mask will sit closer to my nose. Then I add a strip to the chin brace, pushing the mask's chin away from my face and tilting the nose closer. But that still was not enough movement back. I needed to remove the HD foam from the black foam and actually cut the walls thinner, notching the arch to fit the foam. When I glue it back on, it's looking much better. Yeah, that helps. That brings it in. I mean, I think I don't want to bring it in much further than that. Still feel like oh, that's off-centered. Oh, damn it. Tear it up and glue it back down a third time. Then I start adding walls for the cheeks. Everything below this line will just be black foam, and above it will be a raised cheek edge. When the time comes, I'll add a triangular piece just under the cheek to make a slope to go from the raised cheek panel down to the flat of the mask. Then I really start looking at that nose arch again. I'm not willing to admit it yet, although I'm pretty sure this arch, as much as I really like the shape, it's great, the top plane is wrong. It's going to need to pitch down, and that's just not happening. I force this to pitch down and it gets really wide. So, no, it's just not gonna work. And I don't think it's that critical. Right now it's a really nice arch. I don't think it's gonna be that critical because I'm gonna put panels over it. I cut a couple more small strips of foam with tapers on the ends, which I glue in as filler for the cheeks. The cheeks needed a little more meat right about here. I can hear you say, but Odin, there are holes in the mask now. When did that happen? Well, when building something, sometimes things happen in a different order, different from what would make a good narration. So let's go back and cover the holes. One of the things I was worried about was how the screen mesh would attach to the mask. Don't worry, I'll get to the holes. I glued in 2 rails of 6mm foam on either side of the 10mm center, and I plan to glue some screen mesh over the rails and over the walls of the cheeks. So I needed to breathe through the foam that's behind the mesh. The mesh is not here yet. Using the largest hole drill from Cos Tools, I carefully cut away at the spaces where the airflow needs to happen. And I have a scrap foam block in my other hand, so I won't cut myself. Now I'm using my fancy hole cutter because I like this thing. I mean, it's just the part, there's a whole another piece it goes into that makes it easy to use, but it's not that hard to just use the, this is the Cos Tools hole drill. Realistically, you can just cut these out with a hobby knife. You don't need a specialized circle cutter. I just like the way it looks. For the last bit at the top, I used a medium-sized drill because the larger one no longer fits in that space. Hey, we caught back up. The contact cement dried and the cheek bits were put back on. Now I can work out how to attach the privacy screen cloth, and that'll allow me to breathe through the mask. This is actually the exact same privacy. This is the exact same privacy. This is the exact same privacy shade cloth or screen cloth that I had used on, well, the last couple of masks. What I want to know is how much of the light gray is going to be visible. Oh, you know what? Oh, wow. None. So what I'm going to do, I could paint it. I don't think I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and just color it in with an ink pen. If I'd used black foam, it would have been, a whole lot easier. I cut a couple panels of cloth through each side of the mouth, and I'm just going to super glue them in place. The super glue dissolves the ink just a little bit, but it's still a much better bond than putting it on over paint. First, I make sure the middle was right near the mouth. The outer edge, well, this has extra that I can trim off after the super glue sets. While the super glue was really setting up and the cameras were off, I made a paper template for the cheek panel that covers the upper half of the mask. And hopefully get the nose bridge back. I'm going to have to trim that down, but I've left it long on purpose. In fact, a couple of things are a little longer than they should be, because I'd rather trim them back than to be gluing everything down and go, ow, I'm 3 millimeters short. And I trace a set on some 4mm foam. And when I cut them out, I try to keep a 90-degree angle on the cuts. This foam is not all that thick, but it still helps. The tricky part is cutting out those little inside panels, because I can't overcut the corners. It's pretty difficult to fix that. So I carefully saw into each corner to keep them very clean cuts. Now, there's only 4 panels on each piece, or 32 cuts total to worry about. Fits just about as well. A little different because, you know, done by hand and things aren't machined. What I need is more screen to fill in the back of the panels. So I cut 2 strips of screen and super glue them to the foam. I just glue them flat on the table. The contour of the cheeks will be easy enough to follow. But I do tape the mask to my head cast to glue the panels on. I just use contact cement, and gluing things down with the right curve to begin with always lets it fit better. Now I have the nose angle that I wanted, and it smoothly connects to the sides of the face. I work out a paper pattern for the top panels that go over the cheek and near my face, and when I have a pattern that I like, I trace it onto some 4mm foam. So what I need to remember is that the inside curves need to be at a 90-degree angle. And the outside curves, I want to cut at a 45-degree angle, or so. I use contact cement to glue the new panel to the mask, gluing the 45-degree cut to the cheek panel, which gives that top panel a slope all the way around. I use a medium and large hole drill to add a few more holes in the cheek area. Maybe. Whatever, more breathing holes are more breathing holes. You could never poke enough holes in the top of the box. And the airflow through this mask is phenomenal. I honestly think that helped a little bit, because I can feel it. I can feel the exhale come out here, which means it'll fog up my glasses. But I can feel the exhale happen, and that's great. Okay, so that did actually help. The last puzzle to figure out is the grill that goes over the mouth. In the game, the grill bars get larger as they go down, and I want to do that as well. So, with some scribbled math later, I have what should work for a change in sizes. I'll start with 7mm wide strips and move up by odd numbers until I get to 13mm wide. The inside edge needs to be cut on an angle because they are on an angle from the center of the mouth. I trim the strips to fit as I go, and I use the scraps to make sure the spaces change size as well as the strips. Each strip is just super glued in place. It seemed like the easiest way to get them to glue on. All right, I've got one more piece to make, and then I can start finishing this thing up. I really want to include a slope that goes between the cheeks and the panel here. I want some sort of transition between the two. It looks like he's got one. I'm going to simplify the way that I'm going to do that. Because it looks like he's got one. And I'm going to simplify the way I'm going to do that. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to take a triangle dowel, you can buy these by the package, and I'm going to cut it in half. I've got there's a series of sizes. They come in 10, 15, and 20mm wide. The 20mm is about right. I sharpen my razor knife and carefully cut the 20mm triangle in half, right along the peak. Now I actually cut more than one set because none of them were truly equal. When gluing them on, I put my paper pattern back over half the glue, which let me slide the angle piece up to the cheek. And then I could remove the paper and stick the flat side down, and repeat for the left side. So I don't know if you noticed, but I got this far in building. How far am I? I need to do a little bit of cleanup and then I can start painting. So I'm at the very end. I got this far in building. without using any power tools at all, other than maybe a hairdryer. At this point, I'm going to use my rotary tool because I need to clean up a couple of seams in order to make it look better for me. Primarily these, which I could just cut down with a razor knife. I could do that. I'm going to use a rotary tool because I'm going to get a better edge. Same thing with the chin needs to be cleaned up and just kind of touch up some of the other edges. But so far, just a razor knife and a straight edge. I spend a good amount of time using different grinding bits to just clean up extra foam from seams, grinding off the extra triangle bits and smoothing out the chin and the cheeks. And then I change out for my smallest grinding bit and round over the edges on the cheeks. The corners were just too sharp. It looked too much like cut foam. Clean up the foam dust. Come on, foam dust, clean up. Yeah, pretty happy with that from what I can tell right now. From the inside looking out, pretty happy. And I have a new paint that I can try. It's called Flexipaint. I'll put a link in the description. The bottle says no primer needed. And it has been my experience that yellow is always the worst color for covering over anything other than white. This mask needs to be a tiny bit dirty in the end anyway, so well, I go for it. It never covered the black in the cheeks. Well, that didn't surprise me, so later on I painted over them with titanium white and tried again. It took about 3 coats to cover over the gray foam, and a little more to cover over the black. Now, do I like Flexipaint? Yes, I'll be using this more often. And then I did 2 or 3 layers of sponge painting, just building up a good solid consistent yellow over the entire mask. So I'm going to go from here and dry brush a little bit of brown and get this thing weathered. Typically I'm so heavy-handed with my dry brushing, it's actually a bit more of a challenge to remember to be really careful with how little I put on. It feels counterintuitive to me to be painting a dark color on the highlighted areas of the yellow, but it's really working. And just like I did on Sub-Zero, I cut off about 8 inches worth of elastic and attached it to the mask with some contact cement. Most of the materials I used to make this project I picked up locally. I put a list and a pattern link in the description. And I've completed my second mask for Mortal Kombat 11. I've got Scorpion's mask. Okay, I'm really very happy with how well this fits. This is a much snugger fit against my face than the Sub-Zero mask is. I think it's more the design of the mask. This doesn't have the big cheeks and as much snout going on in the front. So this is really very cool. And remember, we're required to wear masks still anyway, but all by itself, the costume mask isn't enough. I have to wear a mask underneath it in order to do what masks are supposed to do. So I have my black mask on because this is the right thing to wear, and then I can have a mask with some character that I can put over it. I'm pretty happy with how both of these turned out. And remember, there's going to be lots of different ways that you can make a mask for Mortal Kombat 11. But this is how Odin makes. Ooh, don't do that. That was a mistake. Let go, let go, let go, come home. All I can do is trade. Let go, let go. Success on 1. Megatron, get over here! I like this. I like this. I can do this. This is cool. Yeah. This makes me happy. I like this. I want to thank Guard Warland, Stupid Monkey, and all of my Patreon supporters. My Patreon support is the #1 thing that makes this show possible. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Have an idea for something for me to make? Please leave a comment below. And if you make any of these projects, you can send me a picture.